Good morning and welcome to Fix It Finance. I'm just going to go live on Instagram and then we are going to shoot. Okay, we are live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Welcome, everybody. My name is Fikaya Usman. I go live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We discuss all things personal finance. So welcome to Fix It Finance, where I help you take control of your money so you can be free to seek God. You understand? Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be the first to know when new videos are released. Like I mentioned, I go live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So bring your questions. Today we're talking about black tax. I really don't like that word black tax, but that's just the word that society seems to be accepting on the matter today. So um what do you call it? Like I mentioned, I really don't like the word black tax. So basically, just because it's not only black people that face it, that's one of the reasons I don't like the term black tax, but it is what it is. So we're going to be talking about black tax, honoring parents, and how to budget for family and friends. Now this is one area where I get a lot of questions, so I decided, let's go on a live and have a discussion about it, and then we can go from there. If you have questions, please post them in the comment section. I will be monitoring the comments for questions and take it from there. So I was gonna say, so take some time to watch some of the past videos. I have a playlist on YouTube where I put in all the lives we've done, and you'll learn a lot. And then I've also been putting out a lot of short videos, so make sure you check those out. I guarantee you will learn at least three things if you watch it. At least three. If you watch at least three different shorts, you will learn three different things. I promise. So let us get right into it. Okay, what is black tax? So black tax is a term that originated in South Africa, and it's used to describe, a situation whereby a person who is financially able, you understand, someone who's working, for example, is obligated, obligated, I have here in brackets, responsible, and in some cases mandated, to provide financial assistance to members of his or her family. So black tax by definition, is used to, at least based on all the things I researched and everything, and of course what we know, in simple terms, it's a situation where someone who's financially able, and sometimes someone who's not even financially able, but is in a situation where people assume they are financially able, is obligated, and in most cases responsible. Sorry, in some cases mandated. You understand? So there's a difference between feeling obligated. In some cases, there are situations where families, you are actually mandated to provide financial assistance to members of, his or her family. So the issue at hand, right, when it comes to black tax, is not whether or not you should help, right? So for those that are just joining us, we are talking about black tax, honoring parents, and how to budget for family and friends. So I've divided this session into three parts. First part, we're going to talk about black tax. Second part, honoring parents. Third part, budgeting for family and friends. And they're all linked. Okay. So, like I mentioned, the issue at hand when it comes to black tax is not whether or not you should help. The issue is, how to help friends and family without becoming an enabler. You understand? So, one of the biggest issues that we find with black tax is, you end up raising enablers unintentionally. Okay. So, helping friends and family, or not helping them is not a sin issue, so it's not it's not necessarily under this quote unquote spiritual umbrella. I mean, it is, but like it's not a sin issue, it's more a moral issue than anything. Okay, so moral issues usually stem from what you and people in general, people in your community, consider right or wrong. Okay, so for example, in North American culture, right, or in the North American culture context, helping friends and family is not an issue because it's not something that is expected of you usually. Okay, everyone is expected to be able to take care of his or her household, live within your means, and have enough to give to, say, charity, for example, not necessarily family. You have, in the North American context, people that will not give to their family but will give generously to, say, a homeless shelter or an animal shelter. You understand? So there's nothing right or wrong in that situation. However, it's just, again, back to morality in terms of what's morally acceptable. Okay. So what I have here is, like, if you give away all your money, for example, and you don't build for tomorrow, the cycle of inadequacy continues when it comes to black tax. So if you give away all your money to your friends and family, but you don't plan for tomorrow, the cycle continues. You understand? It's very sad to say that a lot of the people you are helping if the roles were reversed, they are not able to help you. So for example, tomorrow, let's say you've been helping somebody with tuition for their school fees. If tomorrow you need tuition, chances are this person you've been helping cannot help you. Okay, so you must apply wisdom. We must apply wisdom. I say it again, we must apply wisdom. There's nothing wrong with helping, but we must apply wisdom. Okay, you have to set things up in such a way that you and your household are taken care of in case of emergencies and or tomorrow. You understand? You can't have a situation whereby you've helped all your siblings and now your own child is ready to go to university. You don't have the funds. You understand? Because are you now going to go back to those siblings and say, oh, I helped you go to school. Now you need to help my own children go to school. You understand? It's just not wise. Okay. It might be acceptable in some cultures, but it's just not wise. Okay. You cannot help, like I have this point here, you cannot help friends and family at the expense of your children or your children's needs. You understand? Yeah, and we've seen that, especially when it comes to black tax. You have situation whereby daddy is sending money home, or sending money to XYZ or giving money to XYZ, and the children at home are barely eating. Okay, so we must apply wisdom. Okay, so I have also here. I think I'm gonna share my screen for this one just so folks can see. I have a final point here that says, when it comes to black tax, we need to ensure we are removing all guilt and shame. Okay. The only person we owe honor to in this whole equation is our parents. So we need to make sure we remove all guilt and shame as we go through this process. Okay. So let me share my screen real quick. I want to share a passage with us because I think it captures everything so well. 2 seconds. Okay. And I really like this version. So let me see. Okay, good. So here, holy ads. Okay. So it says, okay. And in this, I give advice. It is to your advantage, blah, blah, blah. Where I'm actually going for is if you go down to 12, it says, but if there is first a willing mind, it is accepted according to what one has and not according to what he does not have. Okay. And just hold this in the back of your mind. We're gonna get into each point. For I do not mean that others should be eased and you be burdened. Okay. But by an equality that now at this time your abundance may supply their lack, and their abundance also may supply your lack, and that there may be equality, as it is written, he who gathered much had nothing left over, and he who gathered little had no lack. But if you go, the biggest highlight of this scripture that I wanted to share was, for if there is first a willing heart, it is accepted according to what one has and not according to what he does not have. Okay. So one of the reasons I wanted to share that is because we put ourselves under a lot of pressure when it comes to black tax and whatnot, in terms of you yourself, you are barely surviving, and here you are breaking your back trying to help people at home. Okay. So, like I said, we must apply wisdom. So let's switch gears and talk about honoring parents. Okay. So again, everything we've said so far, hold it. And then at the end of the day, we're going to link all three so we can, have a deeper conversation in general. Okay. So when it comes to honoring parents, we are taught both culturally and spiritually to honor our parents. Honor your parents. It is the first commandment that has not one promise, but two promises attached to it. It talks about that it may be well with you, one, and you may live long on the earth, two. Okay. So when preparing for this live, of course, doing research and, reading and whatnot, I was asking the Holy Spirit, I'm like, okay, what does it mean to really honor parents? Obviously, we know what we've been taught. We know the scripture, we know everything, but like, what did you really mean when you were talking about it? Okay. And the only passage that kept coming to my mind was Proverbs 3 verse 9, where it says to honor God with your substance. Okay. And I was like, okay, what's the relation? The Message translation says to honor God with everything that you own. Okay. So while you don't necessarily have to honor your parents with money, you must honor them with your substance, whatever your substance is at the time. Okay. That is things that you also own, things that you own, also known as things that you control. Okay. So when I think of, if I'm to honor God with everything I own, I'm to honor my parents, for example, with everything I own, you understand, it's basically things that are within my control. Okay. So, for example, let's say you're a full-time student, okay? Because a lot of times, There are a lot of people that are still trying to find their own sea legs, trying to stand on their own 2 feet. You might be a full-time student, you're not earning a living yet, so you're not even working. For example, even if you're working and just making enough to pay your bills. Okay, you're in control of your time. For example, you can be intentional about calling them, say once a week or twice a week, to see how they are doing, check on them, and just have a relationship with them. That's part of honor too. Okay, so whatever you do, okay, one thing I have here as a point is, do not wait to honor your parents. Because one thing I find, especially with sometimes my generation, sometimes the younger generation, is this: I'm waiting to honor my parents. I'm waiting till I hammer. I'm waiting till I make it. For example, when I start working that $50 an hour job or $75 an hour job, then I'll have enough strength to honor my parents. And 9 out of 10 times is kind of not necessarily a lie. It's just you're deceiving yourself. Okay, it's while it's part of honor to give to them, you understand, not necessarily because they need it, because you have some parents that are well off, okay, and you have some parents that are well to do, okay. You are to give them out of what you own now. You understand? Like what is within your control now. You have to honor them with your substance now. Okay. The Bible does not say to wait to honor them when you make it or when you start working. You understand? You can honor them starting now. Okay. And the truth of the matter is, some parents might not even, by the time you make it, some parents might not be here, or they may not be strong enough to enjoy what it is you want to give them. Okay. So that's why it's very important that honoring your parents needs to start right away, as soon as you have that consciousness of honoring your parents, meaning you are grown. Okay. So as much as possible, I have here, don't overstretch it. Okay. So let's say it's money you want to use to honor them. Do not overstretch it. Again, you have to apply wisdom. Okay. You can't say you're giving your parents money and then you can't make rent. You have to apply wisdom. Okay. Um, I'm a big believer in the fact that you can honor your parents on the little you have now. That $100 you're making at your job every 2 weeks, you can take $10 and send to them just to say, "Mommy, I appreciate you, Daddy, I love you, I see you." Okay. So to the young generations out there, don't wait to honor your parents, honor them now. Okay. Start honoring them now with your substance now. Your substance could be money, your substance could be time, your substance could be gifts, your substance could be whatever it is, whatever substance consists to you, whatever is important to you, start using it to honor your parents now. Okay. So now let's get into the meat of the matter, which is, how do you budget for family and friends? Okay. So we've established some principles, we've established some foundations, just as a summary. So when it comes to black tax, like I mentioned, the issue is not whether or not you should help. The issue is how to help them without becoming an enabler. Because as much as you want to help, you also cannot raise entitled human beings. You cannot be funding entitled lifestyles, and you cannot be funding irresponsible behavior. For example, one of the examples I'm going to share later on, you have a person that calls you to help them with rent today, calls you to help them with rent tomorrow. By the third time, you are an enabler. You understand? Because that person is living above their means, and or wherever it is they're renting is too expensive for them. They need to move. Their bill is not part of your bill, or should not be part of your bill. Do you understand? I'm talking about family and friends now. So that's just in terms of when it comes to black tax. Okay. In an African context, we are expected to help. It's deeply ingrained in us to care for our community, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The key is we don't want to become enablers. Okay, enabling bad behavior. Okay, bad, at least financial behavior. Again, especially when it comes at the expense of your own family and your own well-being as an individual. Okay. So, and of course, when it comes to honoring parents includes honoring them with your substance. That is, things that are within your control now, be it your time, your money, your experiences. For example, anyways, I won't go flog that horse too much just because of time. Okay. And like I mentioned, when it comes to parents, whatever you do, do not wait to honor your parents. Start honoring them now. Okay. Because we are called to honor them right away. It's not we wait. There's this mindset of, oh, until I start making it, then I'll honor them. That is not what we are told to do. We are told to honor our parents and start now. Okay. So how to budget for family and friends. So from what we've talked about earlier, if you remember the scripture we read, we're supposed to give from our surplus, right? Not deficit. Okay, so start from there. It says, we give according to what one has. The Message translation talks about I didn't read it, but I had it open. It says you're supposed to have your surplus matching their deficit, and vice versa. So you have excess. For example, you make $10,000 a month. You've managed yourself to the point where you freed up $500 in your cash flow to be able to help and assist family and friends. Okay, that's your surplus. You set it aside. Okay, you set it aside that, okay, I'm going to use this to help my family and friends. Okay, so first things first, you are to give when it comes to family and friends or budgeting for family and friends, it's supposed to come from your surplus, not your deficit. If you as an individual or as a household are in a deficit, you are currently living above. You need to first of all fix your own oxygen mask first, okay? Before you have the strength or the capacity to be able to help somebody with theirs. It is not wise, for example, to be using your line of credit to be funding people back home. It's just not wise. Is it acceptable? Is it possible? Is it doable? Yes. It's just not wise. You cannot be funding your brother's house in the village using your own what do you call it, credit card here. You understand? It's just not wise. Okay, so you should be giving from your surplus, not your deficit. Okay, if you find yourself in a deficit, like I mentioned, make sure to fix your own financial house first. You understand? Because you can't have two blind people leading each other. They will fall down. It's just a matter of time. And what will happen is when you fall down, the people that you are helping, they will move on quick. They will find somebody else to be sponsoring their lifestyle. And you'll be there sitting in regret and shame and guilt and just a funk for no reason. Okay. So we have to be wise. Whether we like it or not, one thing you always need to remember, you are not their savior. You are not their Jesus. You are not their God. Okay. A lot of times when it comes to helping family and members, people get that messiah complex. Okay, so whatever it is, if you have that, deliver yourself from it and deliver yourself from it early. Okay, you are not their savior. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much you care for them, you are not their. If you look at the story of Abraham and Lot, at some point Abraham had to be like, okay, we need to separate. Lot, go your way, I will go my way. Of course, tomorrow when Lot needed his help, he was more than happy to step in and help. But a time must come whereby there must be that separation. Okay, it's okay to admit if you're a person that finds it hard to say no. For example, my husband and I, we are people that find it hard to say no. That's why budgeting for family and friends is a must in our household. If not, we'll just be dashing everything away. You understand? And it's very easy if you budget for your family and friends. For example, when I've said this before on Fix It Finance, I'll say it again today. Budget your help. Okay, if you have a line item in your budget that's for giving to family and friends, right? What happens is, if, like I mentioned in the example, let's say from you make 10,000 a month, you've determined, okay, $500 is what you can afford to give to family and friends. That won't interrupt your savings, saving for your children, saving for your retirement, paying your debt, paying your bills, blah blah blah. 500 is what you've set aside, that this is for family and friends. Okay, if that 500 finish, you understand, it's very easy to say no when somebody comes, because now you have to because you have a good idea what your budget is saying. You know that, okay, if I'm going to give over and above this 500, something is going to suffer. Okay, in other words, if I give, let's say someone comes and say, okay, oh, they have a need of $1,000, you've only set aside 500, something will suffer, in the sense of either you're not going to make your mortgage that month, or you're not going to save as much as you wanted to that month, or you're not going to pay off as much debt as you wanted to that month. So then it becomes, okay, what are you willing to trade off in order to help this quote unquote family member? Again, if you decide to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but like I said, you have to apply wisdom. Okay, you can't do that every single month. For example, let's say, okay, I'm jumping into my example, but I'm going to do that right now. So let's say you have in your budget line item, you've determined it's 500 you can use to help family members. In that same budget each month, out of your 10,000 that you make, you've determined that $2,000 is what I'm going to be saving every month. Your family member comes and say, oh, they need help with rent. Rent is $1,500. Okay, you can decide that month that, okay, instead of saving 2,000, I'm going to save 1,000. Add 1,000 to the 500 I would have otherwise, to the 500 I've set aside for family, and help this person with their rent. No problem. Next month, this same person comes, hey, bros, and this is someone you go way back with. This is someone you will literally lay your life down for. This is someone you are close, close, close. The person comes again, Egbo, bros, please, I need help. Can you go, this is that and another thing. And you say, okay, fine, sure. It's the same budget amount. You still have the 2,000 for savings. You take another 1,000 the next month and you help this person with the rent. By the time they're coming back the third time, brothers and sisters, you are enabling this person and you are allowing them to live a lifestyle that they cannot afford. Okay, they are using you to afford that lifestyle. Okay, and you need to check it, and check it quick. Okay, and I'll get into how we check it in like 2 minutes. So I mentioned budget your help, okay? How you give to family and friends, make sure you budget it. Apply it on a first come, first serve. There are two ways to apply it. You can apply it on a first come, first serve basis. So that same 500, right, that you've set aside in your budget for helping, first come, first serve. Oh, your uncle comes tomorrow. He needs help with children's school fees. He only needs 60,000 naira, for example. That's what, maybe $60. Let's even say $100 rounded. Okay. You even do over and above. You send $100. Okay. And that person comes tomorrow. I need XYZ. It turns out it's 250. Okay. You've spent 350 out of your 500. The next person that comes, okay, all you have left is 200. Once that finish, it has finished until next month before I can help you with your problem. Okay. The other way to apply it is, okay, you receive all the requests. So you don't give anybody out of the 500 yet. You just wait. You receive all the requests. Then you rank it and say, okay, fine. This one needs it for school fees. This one needs it for hospital bill. This one needs it for rent. Which one is more important? And then you give accordingly, based on the amount. Okay. That's another way to do it. So that's two ways. Okay. So at the end of the day, one, you must budget the line item. So have it in your budget. Okay, I'm spending no more than $100 a month, $50 a month, $500 a month for family and friends. First come, first serve basis, or needs analysis basis. Once it's done, it's done. Okay. So when you budget as a household, like I mentioned, when you budget in this manner, it removes any guilt or shame around giving, because once you set your budget up, okay, 500 is all you can afford. If it finishes and somebody comes tomorrow with a sub story, in your mind you're like, okay, what do you want me to do? So I should not make my own mortgage payments because you have needs, you understand? But if you don't have a budget and you can't see that picture clearly, it's easy to get carried away with sentiment, and you go and take money that you don't necessarily have to help someone, and then you are now needing help at the end of the month to make rent or make your mortgage payments. Okay, so like I mentioned, we have to be wise. Okay, so when it comes to important people like parents, maybe siblings, depending on who's important to you, that auntie that took care of you or that took care of your children that you just want to honor, you just want to help, put as much important people as much as possible on a fixed allowance each month. Okay, so say for example, back to that same example of $500, you can say, okay, mommy gets $100 each month, daddy gets $100 each month, there's 300 left for case by case basis. Okay, as much as possible, put folks that are important on a fixed allowance. This way it limits emergencies and unnecessary issues, like the little ankle biters, I call them, that will pop up, rather than wait for mommy to call and ask you for 10,000 today, 15,000 tomorrow, 40,000 next tomorrow. Put mommy on a fixed budget. Okay, mommy, I'm going to send you 100,000 each month. Then over and above that, it's a case by case basis. You understand? Or daddy, I'm going to send you, $50 each month to take care of this, that, and the other thing. And, you kind of go from there. Michael is putting a comment. Thank you so much each week, Michael. I look forward to your comments. He says self-love is not selfishness. Very true. You understand? You must wear your oxygen mask first. And there's nothing wrong with helping. You give from your surplus, not your deficit. Okay, because a lot of people are giving from deficit. There's a lot of resentment, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of anger. You understand? For example, you sacrifice because you're not monitoring your own budget, you're not monitoring your own household expenses. You take money that you don't even know you don't have. You understand? You give it away, and then at the end of the month, you're wondering why you can't pay your MX bill, you can't pay your phone bill because you've over giving. You understand? So we must be wise. Like I mentioned, the assumption here is you're living on a budget, tracking your expenses. You have a line item for family members, and we pick it up from there. As much as possible, put important people on a fixed amount, and then treat other issues that arise on a case by case basis. So I have here, if you have parents or siblings that have special needs. So for example, when my father was alive, my father had a kidney transplant. So the way we had it set up, we had a fixed amount we sent to him every month. Then we had another fund that was set aside for an emergency, because the way my dad's health was set up, if he landed in the hospital, bah, like the money that would be needed to be paid. Wait, that English. The money that would have been needed would have been a large amount, and would have been needed right away, because you know how hospitals in Nigeria operate. You have to put money on deposit before they even start treating the person. For example, there's some hospitals whereby, and at least back then, before they even see you, is 200,000 naira. You understand? So in that case, what we did was we had an amount we were sending every month home, and then we also had $1,000 set aside, right? That, okay, if anything happens with daddy, we can send that money without looking, without checking. Okay. So if you have parents, for example, some of you have parents who are struggling with, say, high blood pressure, or struggling with diabetes, or struggling with this, that, and the other thing. Put them on a fixed amount. For example, you can say, okay, mommy, daddy, I'm going to take care of all your medication each month. Here's the amount to take care of it. Then set something else aside, a small amount aside, that, okay, if there was an emergency, and you can just add that to your emergency fund, or you can keep it separate if you want. At the time we were doing this, we were paying off debt. So what we did was we left room on a particular line of credit of $1,000, that, okay, worst case scenario, this is what we're going to take to help daddy right away. You understand? While it's not ideal, we were paying off debt, so we knew, okay, you understand, but we're gonna in terms of, like, we're going to pay it off and do that right away, because we're in the process of eliminating our debt anyway. And I've mentioned one of the methods we used, whereby, as we're paying off, for example, let's say we had a line of credit of 10,000. If we pay off 2,000 today, what we'll do is we'll call them, reduce the limit by $2,000. You understand? So that way we couldn't go back and spend the money. But I digress. Okay. So of course you can also have extras sent for, you budget extra, for example, for birthdays and Christmas. For example, your Christmas budget, you add extra that, okay, you're going to send maybe something extra to XYZ for Christmas, so you can budget ahead. But if you cannot afford it, don't put yourself under pressure to put it in your budget. Okay, don't put yourself under pressure. Again, you are supposed to be giving from your surplus, not your deficit. Okay. For family and friends, do not be afraid to set boundaries. So I promised I was going to share one of the strategies that we use, so that we don't become enablers. Okay. So the general gist of this strategy is basically, the first and second time you can provide, the full answer to their request, provided it's within your means. Your uncle calls, or your brother-in-law calls, that, oh, I need help with this, blah 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 blah. So it's a one-time thing. Oh, they need help with, say, they're trying to relocate to Canada, they need help with, XYZ for the application or whatnot. Sure, no problem. It's, if it's within your means and you have the means, like the example I shared earlier. So let's say you have in your budget $500 set aside for family, and you have $2,000 going to saving. This is a budget of 10,000 a month. Every other thing, let's say, is going towards bills and life and payments and whatever. So now your brother calls, or your sister calls, or your uncle calls, that, okay, I need XYZ, and the amount is 1,500. You can say, okay, this month, because I love this person, I'm going to reduce my savings by $1,000, add it to the 500 I budgeted for friends and family, and help this person with this particular matter. No problem. Next month, the person comes again. You can choose to do the same thing, okay? But by the third time, let there be a conversation. Again, I know sometimes as Nigerians, or as just Christians in general, we find it hard to have difficult conversations, and that should not be. You should be able to have difficult conversations. So let's assume in this case it is rent, because rent is something that reoccurs monthly. So it's an easy example. School fees is once per semester, right? So let's say it's rent. This your brother-in-law calls your cousin, whatever. Oh, let's even say it's your friend, your childhood friend. You guys grew up together, you've known each other from day one, you both went to school together, you did everything together. Now both of your careers are taking off. This person is living on their own, you're living on your own. Person calls and say, hey, bro, I need help, blah blah blah. You say, sure, no problem. You give them the 1,500 the first month. They come back the second month. This happened, that happened, and I just didn't plan well. I didn't calculate well, and please, I really need help again. You give them another 1,500. When they come back in month 3, you might say, oh, the person no get shame. There are people like that. When they come back the third month, okay, you need to let them understand that this is the last time you are going to help them, at least with the full amount. Okay. Anything after the third time, only do partial help. Don't do the full help. Okay. In the sense of the first and second time, sure, I can help you fully by sacrificing on my part. You understand? But by the third time, you are now enabling somebody. So let's say it is rent, for example. You help them with their rent first time, help them with their rent second time. But the third time, this person needs to understand you are clearly living in a place you cannot afford. So it's either you move, or you find a way to make your ends meet, because I'm not the person that's going to be helping you make your ends meet. You understand? You're not part of my budget. Okay. And you might see it as tough love or whatnot, but it is what it is. Okay. Because you become an enabler to this person, and you rob the person. Okay. Especially if it's someone that has the power to do so, you rob them of the power to grow up and actually learn. Okay, if you keep bailing them out, bailing them out, bailing them out, you're actually going to rob them for that life lesson that they need to learn. Okay, it's very easy to keep asking when you keep getting answers. You understand? But when your system is shocked, when your your usual go-to does not give you, it will make you sit back and recalibrate. You understand? Okay. So like I think I'll leave that there, but I'm very sure you guys understand what I'm trying to say. So the first and second time, sure, you can help, but the third time, make sure you have that conversation that this is no longer happening. Even if they come back, let's say they come back a fourth time, in that particular case, we've used the case of, 500, 1500, taking from your savings to help the person. In that case, don't give them more than the 500 and just say, that's all I can help you with this month, and move on with your full chest. You understand? Let them figure out where they'll raise the remaining 1000 from. Okay. But whatever it's going to be, it's not going to be from you. Okay. This is how you discourage one entitled behavior and discourage enablement. Okay. Because you don't want to enable bad behavior. You cannot take on the responsibility of paying, say, your sister's phone bill every single month, and you don't put anything towards your own child's RESP. It does not make sense. You understand? Again, I get it if, for example, your sister is in school, or your sister has not yet found a job and she's currently job searching. I get situations like that, and by all means, so long as it is within your power to do so, do so. But your sister is working. She's an able-bodied adult, and each and every month she's always having her ends are not meeting, and she's calling you, oh please, I need 300 to pay my cell phone. Oh, I need 450 to pay my half of my rent. I need it. You cannot encourage behavior like that. Okay, especially if they're working and they're able to make their ends meet. Okay, so you need to be very careful you don't become an enabler. Love, part of love also involves tough love. When I say tough love, not necessarily insulting people or making people feel less than, but helping them understand, I cannot support you beyond this level, because now you are affecting my own household. Okay, like I mentioned, you cannot be giving your sister 450, giving your cousin 500, giving your uncles back home 300 every month, and your children's RESP is looking very slim. You've not yet put 5,000 in your child's RESP, but you've sent 5,000 for somebody's wedding at home. It's just not wise. Okay, but I will leave that there. I have this final point here that says helping friends and family is not an excuse to not have a relationship with them outside your help. Because I find this a lot. For example, you have someone who's giving, say, their mom $500 a month, and they barely talk to their mom. You understand? Or they are helping their siblings with school fees, right? Sending, 500,000 per month, or per semester, whatever that looks like, and they barely talk to their siblings. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. One of the reasons why you want to manage this well is it absolves you, releases you from all sorts of resentment, bitterness, anger, rage, that's associated with, when it comes to helping friends and family. We want to be very careful that our heart is in the right place and our heart is in the right position. Okay. Some of us help our parents and our siblings and don't talk to them otherwise. The only time you talk to them is when they need money from you, and that should not be. Okay. So, as much as possible, you want to make sure you're nurturing the relationship outside of your help. Okay. I talked about, for example, if you're a student, you don't yet have money, you're not making money yet, you can still honor your parents by being intentional about how you talk to them, check on them, sending them gifts, for example, that are within your power to do so. Say you want something at the office, rather than use it for yourself, you send it to your mom. Little things like that go a long way. So it's easy to neglect the relationship if you feel used. I can testify. It's very easy to neglect a relationship if you feel used. Every time you see that person's phone call, you just assume they are calling you to ask for money, and you don't want to pick up anymore and whatnot. So like I mentioned in my one of the short videos I did this week, we are relational beings. So we need to make sure we're setting healthy boundaries such that we don't sacrifice, relationship or the altar of needs. Okay. We don't want to sacrifice relationships on the altar of needs. So we as the individuals, because all you can control is yourself. You can't control mommy, you can't control daddy, you can't control your sibling, you can't control your uncle, your cousins, and everybody that's going to call you. What you can control is yourself. So sure, I can help you this time, I can help you the next time. By third time, I'm only doing partial help. Even if I have the full money, I will only give you a portion of what you need, because now you're sacrificing, you're eroding on my well-being, okay, and my family's well-being, and it should not be. Okay. like I meant, I have a point here that says setting these healthy boundaries ensures no one is under unnecessary pressure and removes any guilt and shame associated with helping. If you take nothing else, we don't want to sacrifice relationship on the altar of needs. Okay, so we need to be very careful and very intentional about making sure we are not that we are not, enabling people even as we help them. Okay. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope you've learned something. I'm sure you've learned something. I will see you next week, or at least I will see you maybe when I release some more videos this week. Thank you again. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. See you next week.